Hey friends, welcome at another video of just me today of Beyond Psychology. I wanted to talk about something very interesting. The emotional anatomy of polarization. Lately, I've been feeling into the state of the world and especially the state of the online world. And what we see happening on a large scale is what is happening on a small scale and the other way around. I strongly believe that there is an emotional anatomy. There are emotional collective wounds behind or beneath polarization or behind or beneath conflict. And it's important that we start to understand what truly is happening when there is conflict, when there is polarization, when people start to fight with each other. Because if we understand what is happening there, what is being triggered there, and if we start to become more emotionally mature and literate and intelligent, we can start to understand the anatomy of polarization and the anatomy of conflict. Start to understand our relation to it, to our identity, to our visions, to our opinions. And we can learn to understand what is beneath it, what is behind it, why we want to fight, and to heal and solve the wounds that are being triggered in conflict and in polarization and in fights, so that we stop feeling the urge and almost the neurosis to be right, to win, to be on top of someone else, and to force our vision, our truth onto someone. Because that is not what living is. That is not what healing is. That is not what growth and transformation is. So I strongly believe that there are two main emotions that we suppress the most in our life, or even collectively. Two core emotions. And these emotions are hurt and grief, or anger and power and boundaries and authenticity. And depending on your intergenerational wounds and trauma, your gender, societal, cultural, religious conditioning, and the trauma or the emotional neglect or maturity of your family system, you are either a hurt suppressor or an anger suppressor. What I mean by that is that we all carry our relational wounds. We all carry some form of trauma, insecurities, wounds of unworthiness, shame for certain parts of ourselves, emotional hardships, and some relational troubles, or like some relational pains that we carry with us every day and that had its origins in our childhood, right? I write about that in my ebook, Unshame Yourself, if you want to read more about that. You can download it for free. But that we all carry relational, emotional hardships, often in our subconscious mind, and that we all mask them with coping mechanisms, identities, masks, and roles to protect ourselves is a fact, is true. And the more we actually carry pain and wounds, the more we want to stay away from that. We have, as a little child, we have stuffed our insecurities, our unworthiness, our wounds. We have stuffed them in our shadow chambers, like our grief, our hurt, or our anger, everything that we've been through that was too big for us to process, that we were left alone with, to sit with, or abuse, neglect, abandonment, rejection, etc. All of that we still carry that with us. We have that in our memory. We have the wounds in our body, but they are in our subconscious minds. And we have carefully guarded them with coping mechanisms, with mask rules and identities to protect ourselves. And why we do that is because these past situations and hardships, they go paired with an enormous amount of emotions like hurt or grief or anger. And as a little child, we are not capable of processing these heavy and intense emotions, especially if there's not an emotionally regulated, attuned, mature adult with us who helps us go through these processes and these emotions. And a lot of us don't have that because of the world that we are living in, which is very emotionally immature. And we are slowly evolving emotionally, and we are slowly maturing emotionally, and we are slowly healing trauma and understanding triggers, but we are not there yet. So often we do not have such an adult in our surroundings when we go through hard times or when we have to process certain emotions. And as a little child, what we can do to stay safe is to dissociate or to move away from these emotions and to stuff them away, to suppress them, and to install all kinds of mechanisms and protection mechanisms to never ever feel those emotions again, because we believe we cannot handle those emotions, so we don't want to go there, right? Which is a very good survival instinct as a little child. It's a good thing. But what happens is that we slowly forget these hurtful events and these suppressed emotions, and we slowly start to identify with all the mechanisms and the protection mechanisms and the safety mechanisms that we installed to not feel those emotions again or anymore. We slowly identify ourselves with that, with the protection mechanisms, and we think, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is my vision, this is my truth, this is important. And over time, when we identify so much with our protection mechanisms, with our shame-based identity, what I always call all the mechanisms that we created to stay emotionally safe and to not get hurt again, I call that the shame-based identity. I also write about that in my ebook, if you want to know more about it. We slowly start to identify with our shame-based identity, which is not authentic at all, or not that much authentic, right? There could be some authentic parts, but not all of it. And identifying with this shame-based identity comes from this subconscious belief that I have to believe this, I have to hold on to this, because if I let go of it, I will be confronted with the emotional wounds from my past. And that is something that I do not want to do. I want to move away from that. So we identify with this, with our protection mechanisms, our identity, our masks, our roles, and our visions, our opinions, certain political viewpoints, certain pains or wounds, certain ideas, beliefs, certain patriarchal values, certain religious values, certain societal, cultural values, everything that helps us to stay away from our suppressed emotions. So this identification with stories, values, cultural viewpoints, statements, opinions, political parties, even entire societal isms like socialism, communism, capitalism, etc., are often, the more we identify with it, protection mechanisms. We need to hold on to that because I don't want to let go of it, because then I will be confronted with my suppressed emotions. And I strongly believe that what we now see happening in the world, this polarization, is getting a bit out of hand, because I think that a lot of people need to hold on more tight to their beliefs, viewpoints, identities, visions, opinions, because collectively, emotionally, our traumas, our wounds are coming up, and we need to feel them and integrate them. They want to be felt and integrated. We need to grieve all the pain. We need to set boundaries and connect with our sacred rage. What always happens with transformation and change, there is first a lot of resistance, which is very logical because our subconscious says, no, I don't want to go there. I have done everything until now to stay away from that which I am protecting you from. I don't want to go there, so I have to fight harder, and I have to hold on hard, and I have to control harder. And this is what you see happening on the left and right in politics, for example, right now, and also online, where the algorithm works as a confirmation bias, right? Because it shows only what almost confirms who you are, your identity, your viewpoints, and you even get fed by that, and you feel strong and powerful because of that, but the nuance gets lost, right? So that is what is happening in the world right now, but more subconsciously, what is happening is that our suppressed emotions are coming to the surface, and we don't want to feel that, so we hold on more tight to our protection mechanisms. Now, what we see happening, for example, let's take politics. What we see happening on the left and the right, or what I feel and sense, is that this is very black and white, but this is just like an idea of like what I see happening on the left, for example, when I meet these people, and I am more left oriented, so I also connect with that. I see a lot of people who are more hurt. They are often more in the victim mode, which doesn't say I don't believe they are victims. I strongly believe we all are victims of the pain that we experience. So I don't want to gaslight being a victim, but there is a difference between the learned helplessness state, which is not empowering, versus being a victim, but also feeling empowered. And I see more of a learned helplessness victim state on the left, which I definitely relate to and also connect to. And on the right side, we see more of almost like this harsh perpetrator energy, and more individualistic, and more like critiquing this vulnerable state that they see on the left, right? Always judging, rejecting the vulnerability, the crying, the softness, the emotions that they see on the left. And the left judging and rejecting the right for not being considerate, empathetic, not listening to the pain. And maybe you already feel where I'm going. What you see is that they both reject and critique each other, because I really strongly believe that subconsciously they are both triggering the things that they are actively suppressing themselves. So on the left, if there is more hurt and grief on the surface, and there is more helplessness and more identification with softness and grief and crying and feeling, that means in essence, and this is what I see also in my sessions on a small scale, in essence they identify less with the more tougher emotions. I don't know if that's the right word, but the anger emotion, the boundary energy, authenticity, saying what you want, what you need, what you feel, giving an opinion, not being so empathetic, choosing for yourself, right? So they have rejected those parts inside of themselves, and they are suppressing it, probably because of their past and their trauma and their pain and their wounds that made them feel unsafe to go there, ashamed to go there, scared to go there, or they were abused so much by such an energy that they do not want to identify or connect with the parts inside of them that they have seen outside of them. So they do not want to connect with the parts inside of them who can be strong and manipulative and dominating and controlling, because they've been hurt so much by it. The other way around, for the more right people, again, this is very black and white, but I'm just going through the patterns, right? Recognizing the patterns in all of this. On the right, you see a rejection, a critique on the hurt parts. So if I turn it around, they are on the surface more strong and powerful and hard and boundaried and authentic, and they say what they want and what they need, and they are dominating and controlling. And they you have to fend for yourself. They are more individualistic. It's more like the hyper independence, but also they're more angry, and they dare to show that anger, or they dare to control and dominate, right? Which means if they show that on the surface, that beneath it, they reject the vulnerable side. They reject the hurt in others. They reject the shame and the vulnerability and the smallness in others, because they are rejecting that so much inside of themselves. And that's also because of intergenerational trauma, societal, cultural, gender conditioning, but also because inside the family home, they probably had one or two parents who were that way and who rejected that part inside of themselves and passed it on to their children. Or they had a mother or a father or both who were very helpless and vulnerable, weak in some way, let's call it that. And they are angry at that because they needed their parents to be there for them and to be strong and to be an example, but they never had that example, so they had to be that themselves and do it themselves. And these both sides, so the anger suppressors and the hurt suppressors, these two sides are actually fighting for their protection mechanisms to stay alive, so that they don't have to sit with their own pain, grief, shame, neglect, fear, or suppressed anger or sacred rage. And I can talk more about this, and I will start writing also about it. But in essence, this is the emotional anatomy of polarization or conflict. Something is triggered inside of us, but what is triggered is what we stuff away, what we have stuffed away in our deepest shadow chambers. And we have made a pact with ourselves when we are very little I cannot feel that. I don't want to feel that. I will never go there again. And anybody who brings me there is an enemy, and I need to fight it, or I need to run away from it, or I need to dominate or control it, or I need to submit myself to it. But I cannot go to my authentic triggers, to my authentic expression, to who I truly am, because that is unsafe. And it always comes from emotional unsafety and from trauma. But this trauma is collective, it's intergenerational. We really have to start to learn to sit with what is triggering us. This doesn't mean that we have to be passive or can never again critique each other, but it means that the emotional charge around the polarization that what we see is happening right now is not about what we are screaming about at each other, is not about the words that we use. It is about a collective pain that we all carry. But we have learned to protect our pain, our individual pain that resonates with the collective pain, all in different ways. And the more I have learned to protect my pain with suppression of anger and suppression of authenticity and suppression of my powerful side, my self-centered side maybe, the more I dare to show the hurt, but not the anger side. The other way around, the more I've learned to suppress my vulnerable side, my hurt, my grief, because I feel very ashamed for it, the more hyper independent I become, and the more individualistic and the more hard and cold and angry or strong or powerful I show myself, because that is my protection. But these are all surface mechanisms, protection mechanisms, identities, roles, masks, words that mask the true meaning of why I am fighting you, of why I am judging you, of why I need you to listen to me. I'm actually trying to convince you from the things that I doubt the most inside of me. This is why I am fighting you. But actually, deep down, I just want to be listened to. I just want you to see my pain and acknowledge it. Just want you to stand up and take responsibility for your own pain, because I'm tired to carry it. I just want to be authentic with you, and I need something from you, but I don't know anymore what I want and who I am and what I need from you, because I never learned to feel that, to stay with myself, to communicate it. I was never mirrored healthy, emotionally mature way of relating and connecting. I need that, and we need that from each other. But we can only do that if we dare to acknowledge, you know what, you're right, something is triggered inside of me. Let me first sit with this pain and feel it. And maybe you want to sit with me and help me feel this pain. And then we can both heal and integrate and create some emotional tolerance for all the emotional uncomfortable feelings that we feel. Breathe through it. And then we can listen to each other, because maybe we want the same. So if you want to know more about this, feel free to drop any comments, questions, insights below. I will definitely read them and take them along with me when I start to write about this. If you like this video, please share it with a friend whom you might think could use it too. Download the free ebook if you want to start somewhere, or sign up for our free community and join us on our platform away from social media, where we don't have the polarizing algorithms, but where we listen to each other, where we grow and learn together, where we relate to each other, where we connect with each other from our most authentic selves and find resolution and solutions for a better world. Thank you for being here, and have a nice day.